process was a suggested topic in an Acceptance Month live series for Autism Acceptance Month. I'm really glad someone suggested this topic because through research, I learned things that can be put in place for people that need accommodations, and I don't think I understood all the things that can be put in place. Or sorry, all the steps that needed to be done to get the reasonable accommodations. And I think it's really awesome that someone suggested this to me, and it's gonna definitely think it's gonna help some people, and I hope it does. Okay. I used an article to gather information for this topic. All the information below came from the ADA National Network website in the article Reasonable Accommodations in the Workplace. What is a reasonable accommodation? A reasonable accommodation is a change to the application or hiring process, to the way the job is done, or the work environment that allows a person with a disability who is qualified for the job to perform essential functions of that job. And and hello to whoever who came in here. And enjoy equal employment opportunities. Accommodations are considered reasonable if they do not create a undue hardship or a direct threat. The reasonable accommodation process. According to the Employment Opportunity Commission, or EEOC, and the Title I of the ADA, each request for a reasonable accommodation must be considered on a case-by-case basis. The section reviews the phases of the reasonable accommodation process. The first step in the reasonable accommodation process is to disclose a disability, as employers, as employers are the only required to accommodate disabilities on which they are aware of. It is important to note that the process must be interactive with the participation of by the person with the disability and the employer, so that effective solution is agreed upon. Getting the process started. After an employee discloses a disability to their manager or to the Human Resources, or HR, it is important to initiate whatever reasonable accommodation process that the employer has in place. Disclosure usually takes place in the form of, because of my disability or disabilities, I am having a trouble with X job duty or benefit or privilege of employment. For an employee to disclose that they have a disability without also saying that it is impacting their work is usually not significant to begin the accommodation process. Disability disclosure should never be ignored. Initiating an interactive dialogue between the employee and the employer and the employee. The goal of this dialogue is to understand what barrier the person is experiencing and why. This is also helpful to see that if a person has ideas about what might be useful for them. At this point, the employer also can provide an overview of the process so that the person requesting an accommodation understands that what will happen next and who will have access to the information shared. All participants involved must agree to maintain confidentiality when discussing accommodations. Reasonable accommodation information may only be shared on a need-to-know basis and will never go in personnel files. And if it is in someone's personnel file, you should tell them it shouldn't go in there. Just to say that, even though they probably should know this already. And will not be shared with coworkers. Coworkers may need to know something different as a result of the accommodation, and may be told of this change required, but not the reasons why the change was made. If necessary, obtain documentation. If the need for accommodation is not obvious, an employee may be required to provide documentation of a disability from the appropriate health or rehabilitation professional. The accommodation must be effective. Both the employer and the employee are important participants in the process of finding effective accommodation. Finding an effective accommodation. The employee often knows what accommodations will work best, but because they know what the barriers presented by their disability. The employer should participate as they are familiar with the systems, policies, and practices in place within the organization. In the end, it is the employer who decides what accommodation it is to put in place, but it must be effective in resolving the functional limitations presented by the disability. Implement the agreed upon reasonable accommodation. Once the employer identifies an effective accommodation, make a plan to put it in place in the effect of the job, including a necessary training for the employee. If the employer plans to deny the accommodation request, they should have a prepared reason for denying the request to give up to the employee. The interactive accommodation process should be ongoing. The employer and the employee should continue communication to determine if accommodations are working and making adjustments accordingly. And hello to everyone in here. I'm sorry, I was reading because I really think this information is important. I didn't even know some of this information, which is kind of sad that I feel like it's not very readily available unless you look it up. But okay, and this is the last part of the process for getting work accommodations. Okay, so document dates. We have document dates, actions taken, and adjustments made to assure continued success. All parties involved should document information about the reasonable accommodation process in order to maintain an accurate record and so that they can review the process and know what they have done to act on the accommodation. And I don't know if anyone has any questions on anything I said. And this was all from the ADA National Network website. This is where I got this information from, for anyone that's looking. But I also will put the link below this live stream. If not, I'm going to tell you what next week's live stream is, and I appreciate all of you for watching, just so you know. Okay, so next week's live stream is going to be on Saturday, January 8, I'm sorry, not January, my bad. Sorry, Saturday is what I meant to say. Saturday, April 27th at noon EDT, and I live on the eastern coast of the U.S., just so you know. And the topic will be on what companies autistics shouldn't support and why. And that will be the last live stream for the Autism Acceptance Month live stream series for Autism Acceptance Month. Thank you guys for watching. I love you all. Bye.